Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Athenaeum session crossover with Dragon Age Season 3 Ascension. Here we are.
Woo!
Oh my god.
Goodness.
I was busy.
So much art.
Yeah.
That was insane.
That was a lot.
There's a lot of us.
Oh yeah.
12 people, what can you do?
Oh.
Yeah, with that many characters, I mean, trying to fit everything in definitely becomes a challenge, but I think everybody really played it smart to interact like multiple characters as much as possible. So I think the flow of it went really good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if we just
Yeah,
had
I
one-on-ones, it would have been longer. We would not have enough time.
Twice as long.
Yeah, so I
If
think
this had
Oh,
only been
yeah.
one-on-ones, you would have had
Oh,
to
yeah.
do
Yeah.
sessions.
we had to go
Like,
two, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was a good mix of the stuff where we could condense things together was good, and then the stuff that was one-on-one we tried to keep short for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
nice mix.
some characters meshed well with one character, and, that will work out.
And like always, there was a lot of common ground between characters that on the outside looking in, you would not have thought there was any common ground.
Yep.
Yep.
As soon as Lonix started talking about the whole episode, I was just like, "Oh wow, I didn't even think of that."
No, it made perfect sense, especially like you've been trapped in that loop for who knows how long. That'd be a hell in of itself.
Existential nightmares.
Yeah.
Exactly.
all the emotional trauma.
Right? I mean,
Emotional damage.
Also, let me just say, Thistle, thank you. That was perfect.
yes.
Also, Adam, thank you. That was perfect. Also, Mike,
Yay.
everybody, that was perfect.
Yes. I had fun.
Lordy Lou. Something that I've kind of picked up on, because I think I'm the only one here who watched the last crossover. Every single time, the last group is the current group's like therapists.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Legit.
Yeah.
Just a game of telephone therapy.
That makes a bit of
Yeah.
sense, though, considering they've like completed their arc, so but the current group hasn't. So like they have some. They've been through this shit.
Stage
No, I will-
advice.
Ah.
Though
That
I
makes
will
sense.
say it's very interesting that out of everyone, I'm pretty sure Daretham is the only one who hasn't really gotten that. He's kind of been the therapist all the time. He's never really, until like Black Powder said something, he never really had someone do that to him. So I really like how that's kind of the one outlier. And
Yeah.
and obviously I've told other people here some stuff, but if you're watching, there's some hints. There's some hints of what's going on in his brain. It's not good. It's not good. Let me just say it. It's not good.
No.
No, he's not. That's a rough
No, I
one.
was just gonna say the whole being a therapist or mentor and like learning is the thing that Hark's always gone for with all the previous
Yeah.
crossovers. So it does fit thematically.
Yeah, because we're sort of like we're the ones before you, so now we sort of like show you like this is what we had to experience last year. At least we'll try to guide you. Yeah.
I think it's kind of interesting too. So when you guys were just preparing and talking about coming back, what kind of discussions did you all have about what's transpired for your characters from when you ended to this crossover?
Big question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least for me, we had a meetup with Hark where we kind of talked about a little bit of the basic setup, and we've also like because we play Watchers in Medina and such, so we also do talk about like what kind of could be going on with the Ascension characters, and like in many ways, I kind of think of Ascension because we all made characters who are very much like dark fantasy characters, but it was an epic fantasy, so it almost was like a dark fantasy, an epic fantasy.
High fantasy.
An epic fantasy, yeah, a high fantasy with dark fantasy protagonists, which is a very weird mix. so a lot of what, yeah, so a lot of what we were talking about was like, yeah, what would actually be going on now that there's like no common goal and such, and yeah, it's definitely been interesting. I don't because I'm not sure like with Endgame and everything what's exactly going to happen. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
For me, it was mostly just trying to think of like a headspace that Russo would realistically be in 1 year afterwards, because a lot of the late game stuff I had planned for Russo requires him being a god for a much longer time period to see what that effect would be. The other thing too is I feel like going from mortal to god, the longer you go of god, the more it's going to mess with you mentally, at least in Russo's sake. So a lot of it was I got to show a little bit that he's becoming a bit more recluse to the group, which is where I feel Russo would go, but ultimately he still was mostly himself from Ascension because it's been so short.
With myself with Tyrion, it was sort of the same, but with Tyrion it's a little bit more easier because Tyrion always had his goal of being an altruistic and helpful doctor. So him becoming a god actually sort of allowed him to do the goal he wanted to do. What would happen in many years, it's not really sure. I'm not really sure what would happen, but yeah, and after your time, yeah, he would have continued his altruistic ways, and that's what I did here. Continue his altruistic ways. So it wasn't really that hard to, I think, at least with Tyrion's character anyway. Because he's dark. He's a dark fantasy character, but he has altruistic means or goals.
Yeah. And then Daretham, to speak specifically for Daretham rather than the group as a whole, I see Daretham as someone who very obviously has not dealt with his problems really. Like he's coping by work and other such, but he hasn't really addressed his stuff. And Daretham is a traumatized genocidal maniac who thinks he's a therapist. And he hasn't really dealt with that because the cure was kind of just pushed into his lap and he was like, oh, well, here's my thing now. I can just not worry about the problems because this will fix everything. And he's been going on with that. And I even imagine there's a scene at the very end where like everyone leaves and then Darren comes up to Daretham and is like, hey, honey, what was like, what was Black Powder, or Reginald, and what was Star saying? And like, is something wrong? And Daretham just looks at her and goes, I don't know, but I think everything's going to be just fine. Where like the looks that everyone is giving him, he's just not registering them. So and I see that as a subtle fall where he gets a lot worse in his kind of like godly presence and kind of domineering over others, but always in a helpful way kind of thing. Like, no, you must be happy. You must be happy. Of course, way down the line.
Right.
Well, now that he's back, I gotta shower some praise on Micah as Star in this session. Dude, you had so many scenes and you killed like all of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I will say is thank you, but I didn't mean to. That wasn't the goal. I'm not even joking. That was not the goal, but thank you. Thank you.
It's awesome. It's fantastic storytelling. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Really love actually the meeting of the dads.
Yes.
Of the dads was epic for me.
Thank you so much for that, Sam.
Thank you. I thought that
we need
worked out
Sam
perfect.
to open up. We need Sam to open up.
That was some revelations, honey. Them was some revelations.
It was.
Yeah.
So this just makes me hope we do get at least one more big episode in the library so we can roleplay about this stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, we need to
Plus,
do it.
I gave you the hint. I gave you guys the hint of like he's not telling her, whoever her is, something.
Yeah.
Like we get a little nugget.
I have a theory about the state of progression for the remaining sessions. Actually,
listen, because we tried. We tried.
Athenaeum, I mean Ascension. I think that we are going to get exactly one more session in the library. And I think that session is going to be the calm before the storm of the finale.
Yeah.
Whatever our finale is, right before that, it's going to be, okay, now you have one last session to role play.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like probably after we're visiting Kiwi.
Yes!
Yeah.
I cannot wait! I cannot wait! I'm so freaking happy.
I think after we're done visiting Kiwi and that whole situation, then we're going to go to the library and have one big session there to get the rest of the role play, big role play stuff out of the way. And then it's going to be boom, 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 boom.
Right?
And then epilogue.
Exactly.
But yeah, we're visiting Kiwi.
I know.
That'll be so fun.
I cannot wait.
I love everyone's auditions for Athenaeum. Kiwi's character was one I was most interested in seeing Black Powder interact with.
Right? Right?
It's a learning tool.
I almost imagine that Bee and Lonic interacting at this point is going to be almost like everything is wonderful all the time and nothing ever changes. You'll learn.
Right? You'll learn. I love it. I love
it. But about this session, we got magic shoes.
Yes.
Some other people got some other artifacts.
I'm gonna need some information on objection.
Yes.
I will give you the whole sheet.
Yeah. Then I'll talk with Hark about how to implement that in GURPS.
Yeah. There we go.
True.
This session actually had a lot of big, like impacting things, I think, for the Athenaeum group. So like Frankie getting healed and everything.
Yes.
I mean, that's a big pivotal moment for Frankie as a character and the people in Frankie's world. I mean, that's going to be like super huge. I think some of the, just the personal dynamics for characters like Lonick and Star and Sam and Reggie and it's just some big impactful things that got explored in this session. So that's like super exciting.
You're welcome.
I want to ask, is there anything that people wanted to explore but didn't get a chance to?
Yeah. That's
nothing super deep. There was just, I think if I had a chance to talk with Russo, we probably would have played out the voodoo doll thing a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then I think with Pasha, it just would have been fun to explore some of Tori's love struggles.
I was struggling with like, what can I do with Sam, Beefy, and like potentially also with Lon. With Lon, it was not so different with Tyrion. The problem was like Lon already solved his situation. So I don't think there was anything I could do as Tyrion that I could offer assistance. Same time, I don't think Tyrion would know how to help you.
I did have a scene in mind for Tyrion in case you decided to approach me on that, Skull. And that is that Lonick currently has little gemstone beads situated around his neck from the experience in the last world. And he's missing one. He's missing the pink gemstone, the pink flavor senshi. And until he gets that, his chains aren't totally broken. He's still a prisoner until he gets that last.
Okay, all right. Yeah, there could have been something with that, but like I asked her, I was like, "How the hell am I going to do with Lonick stuff?" Because I didn't know.
I don't think Tyrion could have helped him.
No, there was nothing at least I could think that could help. And with Beefy and Sam, I couldn't find a way to sort of put Tyrion in those scenes. I mean, at least as me as Tyrion. So I don't know about if you two had any ideas on that, but that's gonna happen. It's gonna happen where we're gonna miss scenes like that.
I had a few vague ideas for something with Tyrion and BP, but it wasn't anything as pressing as other people's. Yeah. So I kept quiet about it. Yeah. The one thing I do miss on is I wanted to talk to Pasha about a situation with Taylor.
Aw, that would have been lovely.
It would have been not happy. I'll spoil that much. Not a very happy conversation.
Okay.
But yeah, that was like the one thing, but also time.
Yes.
I didn't want to do more than 3 scenes, so especially with
that's where I was
alcohol at the beginning.
Yeah, and not really knowing the setup at all, because coming into it, for me anyhow, I didn't know, were we going to be at Feast? Were we going to be at a jousting competition? I mean, there was no real, here's the scene kind of deal. So it was like, we'll take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. Like Emily, when you messaged me actually on the fly, you were like, come into the scene. I was just going with the flow. I knew that I wanted to have Frankie be reawakened. And I was initially thinking like, oh, it would have to be with the Freedom God. I think that would be a great scene. But when you pulled me into the other scene, I was like, oh my God, am I going to have time to do this? And so when the moment came up, I was like, maybe this is it. And it just flowed so naturally with Hark. Role playing with Hark is just so natural. Like
as soon as that happened, where we were talking, I'm not sure if I brought it up first or who brought it up first. Oh yeah, because you were talking about the stitching and such.
Yeah.
And I was, and then my brain just connected dots and I went, wait.
Yeah.
stitching, flesh, blood, Leon.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, yes, I'm like,
Yeah,
totally, because this was the scene for me to get reawakened. It was like, this is it. I can do this.
Because I wouldn't have been able to help you. All I would help you is like you have the choice. You have to continue on whatever.
Right.
I could help you with maybe your programming or your will of freedom, but I couldn't help you really.
It's different
No,
than
it
the
was
physical
perfect.
things.
Yeah, but it's perfect. No,
And
it
when
worked out
Hark was
very
like,
well.
you get healed and you got these memories, I was like, is he reading my mind? Like,
Right?
he knows exactly where I'm going. He knows
It was
exactly
so
where I'm going.
good. And I like the fact that Star can now use his hands for an hour at a
Yeah, well, that was
time.
great. Yeah.
Oh,
Tori's gonna keep that going.
When the whole nervous system was wrong, I was like, oh, Tyrion's gonna have a field day with Star on this.
right? Oh, that was so much fun because I feel so bad for my character because it's like, if you ain't got your hands, it's kind
Like,
of a...
yeah. It's like, what can you do? And it's like, hey, you shouldn't have that. I'm the god of freedom. I shouldn't let you like not have any free will with your damn hands. Let's get those fixed up.
Right?
You have to Milli Vanilli it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I like that. I like that analogy. You know what? +1 for Sam. You go, Sam. Well, Joe/Sam.
This wasn't confusing at all with the names.
I
No, not at all.
Yeah. Oh, it's not as
Never,
bad as Watchers.
never.
It's not as bad as Watchers. Let's not get into that.
Let me just say, the amount of times that everybody has confused Camellia and Casella, and one spelled with a C and one spelled with a K,
Okay,
where,
yeah.
where sometimes people say Cassellia, and I'm just giggling over here like, hi, I'm Void. But
That was
and
very unintentional.
Yeah.
But I will say, I also really loved all the scenes I got to have with you guys. Like, I really loved the cathartic release that Star got to have, which was very equivalent to Daretham's own release back in Ascension. So that was
my guy. You
very, very
were doing very good with the role plays because you were fitting quite well with everyone. So
Oh, well,
you had
this
that
is
string
called-
there, Tim.
Bless
Yep.
you. It's called learn and adapt. That's what Mama taught me.
Yep.
I think that we should come up with a name for that black version of Star, and I think that black version of Star should be Obsidian.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Nice.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
Well, now I'm gonna have to create. Shit. How do I put Obsidian?
Starro.
Yeah,
Starro.
Starro. Yeah, Starro. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Starro.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. I love it. Now it's gonna be a rainbow O, but it'll just be black.
Yeah.
No, I really enjoyed this session. And I just gotta say, you know, getting to roleplay with you guys like for the first time was very interesting, especially after the scenes we got the chance to discuss. I feel like I learned a lot personally. Like I'm always learning from the Athenaeum crew. I'm always picking up the breadcrumbs. I'm sorry, I never stop learning. So again, like I told you in chat, honey, I'm serious about what I said. You are an excellent teacher, and you don't even realize you're doing it half of the time. You know, and it was just so much fun. And I don't really get to flex my muscles that much when role playing, in the sense of because I willingly choose to wait a lot of the time to do things. But this was the first time where I just said, "Oh, what the fuck? Why not? Just whatever."
Sacrifice it. Fuck it. Yeah.
I get
Exactly.
that same feel like this session was really the first session that I could cut loose and be as dramatic as I wanted to.
Right.
And a lot of that is thanks to Daretham.
Snaps to you. No,
I mean, we were talking, and I was saying, okay, yeah, we could do these things. Here's kind of Daretham's powers, and then Adam was just like, "Fuck me up." I'm like, okay, like how badly? Like, and he's like, "I go the whole way." And I'm like, okay, so like you went the whole way, and he was like the whole way. And it's funny because in game, I was thinking that we're gonna have like a 10-year gap or something, so I could have really gone dark with that shit. But because it was only a year, it was in the scene that I was trying to be like, how do I show that Daretham is like not really thinking about Lonnic's safety in this, and just like trying to help him, but not like do it in the nicest way. And eventually, I think it worked out really well, where it was a good mix, where Daretham was like, I want you to say yes, but I'm gonna do it anyway. But yeah, and then it was a thing where I was just like, okay, here you go. Here's a description of kind of breaking your mind open. And then go free, man. My job is done.
And Hark really killed it. Hark and Pasha, or Sue and Pasha, both did a really good job.
Oh yeah.
In the following scene.
Yeah.
I really wanted to make sure that I was able to work Hark into one of my scenes, not only because Lonick is dating or getting ready to date Sue. They haven't had their first date. Literally, before they went to go to his world, the promise was we all have to make it back because when we do, we're going to watch a movie together.
Mm-hmm.
And that was right before you don't get to go back to the library. You still don't get to go back to the library. You still don't get to go back to the library.
Right? And
Tom,
us.
I was gonna say, Tommy, thanks for having Russo reach out to Frankie, because Frankie really was in denial the entire time. So I'm glad that your character came in and tried to bring it out of him, because he was not like blinders
no, it's
on.
Literally from the moment you guys did your audition and like we finished Ascension, I had like a group of characters where I was like, this is what Russo can associate with the most. And like Russo and Frankie's very interesting because they were both created in a sense. So I felt like pushing that whole like accept your identity was the best thing to do for that scene.
Yeah. No, you did good, and you were pulling, and that's exactly what he needed to get him out of that headspace. Yeah. So thanks for doing that.
No problem, man. It was my pleasure. The one thing I felt like was probably the best move in that was when Russo was like, no, I could use magic, briefly showed it and was like, no, I just want to be out in the open with you.
Yeah. No, that was good.
Really, I think you didn't pick Darethan to do that because he would have just been like,
yeah.
I love the fact that a continuous theme throughout this session was don't bottle it up. Don't keep your balls up. Don't hold back. Like, that's a really awesome theme for this session.
Yeah, it is.
Stuff.
And hey, you know what? Out of the we have 9 characters. Out of the 9 characters, 8 of them heard that theme. That's good. That's
right? 8 of them heard that theme. I love it.
That's a good point, Thistle, because right at the moment that both Lonick and Sue stopped bottling up their regrets and their emotions is when the lotus bloomed.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Like,
let it go.
Let it go.
Let's be honest. Like, a good theme for Athenaeum in general is like communication.
Yes, communication.
At first, we had no communication.
So bad at it.
Because we were not the traditional like we meet in a tavern.
Right.
We were like, you get drugged, you get thrown into a library, and we were all like ready to just murder each other.
It wasn't like
who are you?
Divine guide who's like, I will show you the way, chosen ones. It was cricket noise.
Yeah, because when Lonick came in, it was a completely different group.
Yeah,
so Lonick came in and had to learn how to like integrate, because we were already like, who are you? Who the fuck are you? Who sent you?
Right?
Like,
did we kill you? Like
when we first all got introduced, it was very much because we, unlike other, and this is what I think Athenaeum in particular is so unique. And in the previous campaigns, everyone comes from the same world. They all have the same laws and rules of how things work.
There's a common ground that you can say, hey, gravity means you go down.
Yeah, ours was all different. So my world, magic, bad. Star Wars, magic, good, but discriminate against. Sam's world, what the hell is magic?
What the hell is magic?
Well, no. Also on top of that, Sam's world, what the hell is color?
Yeah. What the hell is color?
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
Well, Sam knows color.
Yep.
He just doesn't know that he's in black and white.
Yeah.
He sees in color.
Tori's world, you guys have like different personalities. You are not yourselves.
Right? Oh, I can't go back. I can't wait to go back.
Yeah, every world to you guys is like it's a very different rules of law and all that compared to like say some other campaign. Season 3, we were all. I mean, we didn't have the whole. We were all dragged into random stuff. We were all sort of in the carnivals. Like, we were just met in the same time, same place, and all the shit happened.
Mm-hmm.
That reminds
we've had to be very flexible and adaptable.
Like we had to communicate just to understand each other's world and where we're at.
Right.
So we were
and not a lot of time to figure it out. We had to figure it out fast.
right?
Yeah.
That reminds me of one of the very earliest lines of the campaign. It was either between Black Powder and Frankie or Black Powder and Star. And it was just Black Powder saying, people like you are illegal in my world.
Star.
Oh,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
Star basically because he's just so big and flamboyant and homosexual. It's like, yeah, no, homosexuals get murdered in my world.
Yeah.
They're actually like get executed and tortured for being.
Yeah, we were having some deep conversations early on. Because it was in Frankie's world that they were like all talking like, oh, it's going to hit the fan. But I think having everyone come to Frankie's world early on was good for that.
I do too.
Yeah,
it forced the hand.
Yeah.
So this session was interesting because it felt like we were all just like, oh, it's another world, great.
Right.
We're kind of used to this.
Crazy that we've gotten to that point.
Yeah,
And our characters are at that point to where
They're just
they
desensitized.
just accept. Oh shit! It's just
Just
another
a dragon
world.
shows up, turns into a
Like,
fucking horrific Darkspawn
Yeah.
person. It's just like, oh,
We're like,
it's
yeah,
the
sure,
characters
whatever.
seem weirder.
Yo, we played Tetris, man. We just finished playing
Oh,
Tetris.
wait till that. Oh my god.
yeah. Deadly
my
Tetris.
Like
I never
Tetris
thought.
has never
I
stressed
mean,
me out
it
so
sounds
much.
like you guys played Deadly Tetris and Pac-Man.
Yeah, so a
and
little
like,
spoiler
all the
there. A
classic
little
games.
spoiler. We're in a
So
video
spoiler.
game. Playing video
Like-
games.
Yeah.
Mario Kart. Oh my god.
Yes.
I also love the fact that in story, like in the story of the book and such for video game world, just suddenly like one like 10-year-old who bought the Lonix game got like a really glitchy version. So he's like,
Yeah.
oh, who are all these extra characters?
It is straight up like Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah.
It's straight up Wreck-It Ralph.
It's
Yeah.
so much
We were
fun.
turboing.
Uh,
And then one day
Funny.
he comes up and he's like, oh wait, there was a patch? Oh no, I like playing those extra glitchy
Yeah.
characters.
I love playing the fairy.
Star in a jar, man. It's gonna be big.
Star in a jar.
It's gonna be- there's gonna
This
be
world was
DLC
like, oh,
for
this
that.
is kind of.
Yeah, like that's the
Oh.
funniest thing. Again, Athenaeum being so unique, and I'm so happy I got into this one. Is all the other ones crossover happens? What the hell is happening? And
We
ours
are-
is like, oh, here we go
We're
again.
a giant
We're
crossover.
used to it at this
Yeah.
point.
We're nothing but crossover.
We're just a giant
Right?
crossover.
normal too. It's like,
It's
this is
fun.
normal. This is gonna be fine.
It's another.
The only difference
Tuesday,
you guys,
you know.
the only difference you guys have instead of solving problems, we solved your problems to a certain degree.
Yeah.
We helped you.
At the same time,
That
this
was
makes
nice.
me even more excited for next campaign's crossover because again, we're gonna be like, oh, we're doing this again.
Right.
Here we go again.
Oh,
thought
hey,
that
let's
was
get
done.
the gang back together. One more mystery to solve.
Right?
That was done.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I
Funny you
love that.
mentioned the thing about patches, Dom, because Lonix actually had to install two patches just to be able to speak normal.
Like I don't.
The
I don't
first
know how,
one, the first one, there was no religious iconography in his game, so he kept on calling Jesus Christ Chris.
Chris, I love it.
And the second
Yeah,
one, which
power
is
of
more
Chris.
a biological patch than a physical one, is that he couldn't say the word magic because there was no mention of magic in his game's code. In fact, nobody could say magic when they were in his world, not even Star.
like I
Love
don't know
it.
how caught up you guys are on the episodes. If you
Not
guys
at
have
all.
watched any of it.
I was
Up to
gonna
session
say, big spoiler is Tori's dead,
4.
so
Sorry.
sorry.
Hey, it's like.
It's
She died.
it's
Yeah.
no, I was gonna say it's been on my list to watch, and I did watch like the first 3 sessions. It just I moved, had to change jobs 3 times, and I've been adding the Resi game as well. So I've just been really busy.
I've caught up to about, I think it was session. I was gonna start session 4, and then stuff happened, and I'm also busy with Watchers of Medine. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was able to get up to I think the honey scene for session 1 or session 0,
Yeah.
and then I got really pissed. Well, not like pissed because I was like, "Hark! I wanted this shit. You didn't give it to us. This is our
Oh,
game.
I've
We
been
needed it.
You would
Goodbye."
be perfect
Totally
for Tori's
unexpected.
world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you would love Tori's world.
You would love
Share
Tori's
something about
world.
world.
Yes.
So like as someone who as people who hasn't seen everything in, but like technically speaking, because I think obviously we're just played with you, so I think some spoilers are okay.
Mhm.
I don't
Because
think
obviously
spoilers.
Tori's dead.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Star lost the use of his hands.
Yeah.
Black Powder has his eye back, but is now deaf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's been like closed caption, like we're translating from this entire time.
Yes.
Yeah,
doing
well,
sign-
in this world I could hear, but
Mhm.
like,
Oh, that's right.
from
Yeah.
here on out, I'm reading everything people say.
Okay.
And we'll be in B's world where there's plenty of letters to read.
Yeah.
He's winning at life.
Oh, BP's a pro at this point
really-
because I taught him
Oh,
how to
I
read.
learned how to read.
Yes.
Really?
And it's the
I
cutest
really
scenes ever.
hope that when we start the next session, that Hark just starts it by, this session is brought to you by the letter B.
B, because your
Perfect.
mind is about to get blown out your head. I'm just kidding. No.
And we're gonna have to. God, I hope we go into the cookbook.
Right.
We have to go into the cookbook, you guys.
Yes. Yes.
I'm
Yes.
really surprised.
All this
we go to the
cooking talk.
pirates after this
Yes.
session.
We need a cookbook episode.
Right. I don't know. Is it me? Do I literally want a perfectly Pasha's for real? And I will work there. I will work
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Oh my God, pastry.
That Karen, man. That
Right.
pastry patty.
Yes.
It's like,
God, did that trigger my
2
ex-customer
minutes.
service?
yes, 2 minutes. I was like, girl, 2 minutes.
That's why I was
What
like,
is
girl,
the window
no.
of error here?
It's like not only that, I like similar to Thistle, I'm now a manager for an ISP. So like, man.
Yeah, and I was like, do not give her free shit. She's just
No,
gonna think
yeah,
she can
like,
get away with this
no.
crap.
The moment
Do
I
it
was like, oh
again.
yeah, give her a free discount. I was like, no, don't do that. Don't give
Tell
her.
her,
Never
ban
learn.
her from your stores.
Wow,
Yeah.
2 minutes. Jeez.
Right.
2 minutes.
You should be
But,
so lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how Pasha turned it around. It's like, now that we've corrected this problem, now let me tell you where you done messed up. And I used to love doing that in manager mode when I used to work for Mace. I used to love flipping the script on the customer because they don't see it coming. And it's always fun.
Oh, and
What
that
am I-
Karen flipped around fast. She was like,
Mhm.
That
I'm
part.
like, whoop.
Yeah. Though I'm fairly confident because she was like, oh, there's a literal god in front of me.
yeah,
Gulp.
yeah.
Maybe tone back the acting bit.
Whoopsies.
I'm sorry, guys. One of my favorite ever stories of that type
Uh-huh.
is a story that my younger but still much older than me stepbrother told myself and my brother right when we were first getting into Dungeons and Dragons. That he was working at a gas station at the time, and somebody who was clearly underage went in to get liquor and gave what was obviously a fake ID to him. He just takes it, puts it in the dresser. The kid starts to freak out, so he just takes a billy club and puts it on the countertop. What's that? That's the customer be cool stick. Customer be cool.
Oop. Go
Love
check
it.
you.
Right?
I love it.
No, there was one joke I didn't get to say, but it'd be perfect if the cookbook you go into is Pyrus.
Yo.
Like, that would be beautiful.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I would
yes.
laugh.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Yeah, we got to go into a cookbook. We have
Traveling
to.
inside
It just has to
Pirates would
happen.
be amazing for like a final world.
Right.
Just everything would seem super chill on the surface. It'd be like, this is how you bake the herring pie. First, you dismember the orphans.
Yeah.
I'd love to go into Ian's cookbook.
Yeah.
I want to go
And,
so
oh my
bad.
god,
I know,
Yes.
it's
our
adorable.
favorite Hobbit.
Right?
Yep.
Meanwhile,
Hamlin's.
Hart, the immense trickster, we had to add a sixth player because we couldn't do any guests.
Right? Gonna sit there and play with my emotions like that. And also, you know who else I would love to see is what's his name? The one with the cookie pocket, and he had
Yes!
the razor ribbon. That one. I wanted that one too.
Mike,
Mike!
character.
Yes,
What was Mike's
Gremlin
character's
Mike.
name?
It was Gremlin Mike, and his name was something, the magical puppy dog. I don't
It was a
remember.
magical dog. I can't remember what his name
Oh
was.
my god, that was like the
Yeah.
fiercest animal. I loved it.
Yes.
It was like, get your cookie, your favorite cookie, and then my belt turns into a rapier. I'm like, done.
Oh.
Disco.
I still remember watching that initial like audition and being like, happy children's character, my
No.
ribbon turns into a razor, and then like
Like, yes.
Okay,
This
Grim Fairy
escalated
Tales.
quickly.
That is some.
Yes.
That's
That's
Assassin's Creed
something-
shit right there.
That part.
there's like a YouTube channel that's nothing but ruining people's childhood, and I feel like that's the kind of thing that would
Let's
be
go
on
there.
that.
I was sold.
Oh my God, Mike, get on that. Mike, if you're watching this, get on it. Just jump right in there and just make that book and everybody's childhood down the toilet. Let's go.
It's funny. I'm thinking about like what mock audition I could put in. I didn't eventually do one, but I was thinking about a bunch, and like I had ideas for maybe doing like a literal a school instruction manual, like the driest story ever. It's just like you have to solve the problems by doing algebra and shit. Like the driest thing.
Yeah.
Quadratic equations. Let's go.
X. You must first examine Y, B, and
like
X.
everyone has to talk monotone. A star would be like in horror.
I was singing aloud.
If I was going to do mock, I was going to consider doing like a Lovecraftian-esque book, like something that's kind of like a semi-horror, but more on the sanity and the other world stuff.
Yeah.
I would love.
You know what would be fun for like?
Great.
You know what would be fun for this group? Putting in a fucking CW show mock-up.
Yes.
Like
Just
what
the
we're studying in Smallville.
Yeah, like basically the utter melodrama of like.
Oh,
just,
I don't know. Like,
suddenly you get to this world and just the melodrama becomes infinite, and the
legitimately
plot gets
thought
so
about-
contrived and detailed and weird.
I've legitimately thought, like, at times it was like, man, this group would like if they got stuck in like Supernatural, this group would like lose their shit.
Yes.
Because like it'd be like, guys, could you just stop? Like,
you guys, you have no idea how many angsty TV teen shows I watched to get into the headspace for my character.
Right.
And I'm so glad that Frankie's World did not turn into that.
No, it didn't.
But I was getting myself ready for it, and I was like, I'm over this. Oh,
Like, dude, oh my god! Imagine if like the modern day Riverdale was like a fucking bitch, and that was the world you had to go to.
I watch all kinds of stuff, like 13 Reasons Why.
Mhm.
I watched Elite on Netflix. Oh my god, it was just too much.
Yeah.
You have to admit, I think it's funny. You watched all those like teen angst to get ready for Frankie. I watched a freaking Disney movie. And it turned into a very dark world.
It's funny. I mean, for Tori's World, I watched nothing but horror movies too to get into that headspace.
Same.
And it was actuy, I had a blast in Tori's World. I had
I had so much fun, even though I died. It was so fun.
I had a blast.
The episode Tori dies, or that session,
Mhm.
despite it being emotionally wrecking,
Yeah.
is still one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Because it was the first time the group really was like, we gotta fix this.
Yeah.
Like everyone came together strong that session, and it was right before Lana joined.
100%.
Right before Lana.
Obviously, I wasn't there yet, but I felt the same way about the final session in Black Powder's World, the one that just aired,
Oh,
where
yeah.
all the shenanigans happened with Jim and just
Yeah.
all of the chaos and the
Yeah.
bitterness and people being ready to throw their lives away to protect the rest of the group.
We've gotten some practice.
Yeah.
And like looking back at that, like I'm so happy I went with Black Powder, considering I had 3 possible characters to go with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy I went with Black Powder. Although my horror character also would have been fun, but I wouldn't give up Tori for the world.
Right.
This was an interesting crossover for us as characters, because I think this was the first time that we've encountered like very powerful beings.
Yeah.
And so
Very much.
it's very much like, oh, we're in a new world. Yeah. But now we're like, oh, you guys are like gods?
Yeah.
Like, God.
Yeah, like,
Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean, God? What does that
30.
mean?
Yeah, we're level
'Cause we've
30
already
characters.
visited.
We're level 30, literally.
Yeah.
Like,
I like it. Literal
Like,
30.
we roll 5d6 in Dragon Age. It's not broken at all.
Right,
Yeah.
because we're still like level 5, that kind of a thing, right? So we're still
Yeah, it's like we could crush you if we wish to, but of course we're just here to help.
I gotta say though, like even though we ran into gods, this was also like obviously because it's not Hark trying to juggle 50 million NPCs at once.
Right.
But
True.
it was also some of the most human interaction we've had.
Right.
Mhm.
Because like all the others, the worlds in some way or shape or form have been hostile. Even Star's World,
Correct.
which is probably the least hostile.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's been so hostile, and like there's been like 2 or 3 people. It's like, okay, they're all right. We'll we'll talk to them later. With you guys, it's like, oh, we've talked to each other for like what 2 hours? Were we in this room? And it's like, okay,
Like the
yeah,
intro
no.
opening RP for all of us was 2 hours, and then
Yeah. And then it was like, yeah, no, I'm going to tell a god to go get some therapy, and then we're going to book it.
Right. And
It was very calm.
like mic drop.
yeah. And I just love that because in my head, like my initial instinct was like, oh yeah, I should do a reply, and then I love it when you get to just not reply and let the other person's punch land. Especially when, like, just that scene of Darren just closing his fist and just like, I don't understand what you're saying, so I'm just not gonna ignore it and pretend it didn't happen.
Like, I thought for a minute, he was I thought for a second that he was like, oh, he doesn't like hearing that he has shit to do still.
He doesn't.
So he's mad.
He doesn't. He doesn't.
I thought
so,
that, I in my own mind, I was like, hell, Blackwater's not scared of his own god. Why would he be afraid of these guys?
I love the beginning of like your scene, Darth, like introduction, where it's like, oh yeah, the god you're trying to reach is not available to take your call.
Not available.
I do not have time.
Yeah, it's not exactly what I was envisioning, but it also works really well, especially because like with that initial scene, it wasn't like explicitly stated. But I basically wanted to say like, hey, this guy was trying to manufacture a plague. Darth just murdered him. No trial, no nothing. It was just like, okay, you're dead now, and then everyone else is alive.
Yeah.
And like,
I love that this office he has secretary. Like it's like I've got this job.
Yeah, like it was Russo too.
Yeah.
Russo
Because
too.
like just the idea of being stuck listening to parties argue over kind of a moot point at this point.
Yeah.
And having to go home to his kids and then immediately leave again. It's man, that is like sitting down life.
Mhm.
Like
That was
I
real.
did love the transformation into Fashion Friday, where it was just I honestly imagined I was like plane, bus, hotel, club, another club, another club, another club. I was dying. I was like,
Googly eyes on it, and some of you guys said you wanted to hear that. It would have been so bad if the staff had just said harder, daddy.
Oh God.
Oh my
I'm
god.
glad I took out the googly eyes when I did.
Stop.
What is?
And now the
Also-
bondage joke we made at the end of the game from Ascension comes full circle.
Full circle.
Oh, he
No,
should
that
have
would
been
have
Princess Tangerine.
traumatized poor Tori. She saw like a sex scene in Sam's World, and so
Oh
if
my
that
God.
happened, she would have been mortified.
and then they went to the and also a good chunk of the group went to the Stars World version of a furry convention.
Yes, they
Yep.
did.
But Stars
Furry
World version,
convention.
so instead of fur, it was skin.
And, yeah.
Skin
Yeah.
convention.
A little bit on the disturbing side.
We had fun in Star Wars World too.
There's
That's
never
hilarious.
more time.
Hilarious.
I will say I am a little sad that I never got to do any musical thing because I do actually have a lot of training with singing.
Nice.
Oh,
So yeah,
I mean, hey, maybe if you get paired up with Micah in Endgame.
Yeah.
there you go.
Maybe.
yes.
Well, the problem with that point is by that point, I imagine it'll be long past Darthan's regression point, so he won't be doing much
But
singing.
we'll see.
Oh, we'll find some sad, sappy song for him to sing. I'm
Right?
sure.
No, it wouldn't be sad sappy. It would be like fucking Scar, be prepared, like a maniacal shit. Like
Yes.
Typo negative.
Villain
Okay,
song.
all right.
Oh,
A villain
negative,
song.
yes.
A villain song.
And
I-
ambitions be prepared.
I do.
Love it.
Prepared.
I do find it a little bit odd that with Tyrion's scene, like in the beginning, it was very calm compared to the other characters. Like other really good comedic, or they had some seriousness. And Tyrion's like, "Look, I just finished like an entire like my job here is technically done. I still got more to do though. I just get my
He's a
calm scene."
tourniquet.
Yeah.
Right? Oh
Uh.
my goodness.